Hey, it's Ian at Really Good Thinking, home of ideas that matter. How you doing? I'm really pleased to have on my Really Good Thinking programme today Bob Poole, who is joining me from across the pond.
Hear what I did there? Pool, pond. Nice.
To talk about all kinds of interesting things, but Bob Poole is particularly interesting because he wrote a book called Listen First and Sell Later. And I discovered him because of his own radio programme on which he has amazing guests. How are you doing, Bob?
Well, I'm doing fantastic now. I mean, after an introduction like that, I'm going to copy that down and use it, I think.
Fantastic. Well, you know what? It's been really great to connect with you. Relationships of any kind, not just selling, are all about, listen first. So go on then, tell me, how did... I haven't been listening at all, you see, up till now.
But I'm listening. Go ahead.
Right, I'm listening now. Tell me, how did you come to think of that book, and why did you think it was so important to write that book?
I guess, probably 20, 25 years ago, I finally figured out one thing, and that is that we're all selling all the time, no matter, whether you're selling professionally as a salesperson or you're just trying to sell your ideas or trying to get your teenage daughter to listen to you and not hang around with the wrong people. All that is selling. Yeah. So the best way I figured out the way to do that was to just listen to people and ask the right questions. So if you have the right questions, which is, finding out what it is that they really want, what they need, what people, what they have to have in their life to be happy or to, have success or whatever it is. If you just ask those kinds of questions and then listen, really listen, not just, with your ears, but with your heart and with your whole soul, then you'll know where to go. And you add so much value to any kind of a relationship just by asking questions. Yeah. And that value, goes exponentially into, when you actually pay attention, and let people know that you did listen.
Yeah, and listen to what people are saying. And don't even think about selling anything until you understand people.
Right.
Is that too extreme? I think it's
no.
About right.
No, I agree with you. I know years ago, in fact, I think the story's in the book, there was a guy I was trying to sell to who, when we first met, we hated each other immediately. It was one of those deals where the personalities just did not fit together.
I think I know who you mean.
Yeah. You met him.
I think I met him, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, this guy, his name was Frank, and he smoked a pipe. And I know this story's in the book, but I'll just tell you quickly again. He smoked a pipe, and I'd ask him a question, because I knew to ask questions. So I'd ask a question, and he would then take his pipe out. He had pipes all through his office, and that was back when you could smoke, in every office. So he'd take a pipe out, and he'd begin to do whatever it is that you do to pipes, and he would, take them, he'd clean them, and he'd do this, and he'd do that. And I was like, the man is crazy. He's not listening to me. So I'd ask another question. And about the time I asked the second question, he'd answer the first question, and we grew to hate each other even more. So one day, though, I stopped at a drugstore, and that was back in days also when I smoked. And I smoked cigarettes, never even thought about smoking a pipe. Stopped at this drugstore near his office to get some cigarettes, and I saw these pipes sitting on corncob pipes. In fact, they were sitting on this little display by the cash register, and I just, a light bulb went off, and I said, okay, I picked up one of the pipes, and I asked the young lady behind the counter to please, give me some tobacco, and she just picked something out. So I took that, and I put it in my suit coat, and I went in, and I sat down, and I asked Frank a question, after we got through hello, and he never said much. He picked up a pipe and he started, doing the pipe thing. Well, I reached in my pocket and I pulled out my pipe, and his eyes got as big as saucers. And he said, I didn't know you smoked a pipe. And I said, well, I haven't for long. And I quickly reached in the other pocket and I pulled out this tobacco and I said, in fact, I just bought this to try it. Is it any good? From that day on, he and I would sit in his office and we would smoke pipes at lunchtime. And he actually would start bringing me sandwiches that he'd made at home the night before, and he'd bring sandwiches in it, and we became friends. Well, he just, for the next half hour, 45 minutes, he told me more about pipe tobacco than you would ever want to know. And he actually blended his own. He had a small refrigerator in his office where he kept some, and he went on and on and on. And that company ended up, being one of the big reasons that I did so well. At that time, I was working for 3M Company, did so well because by the end of that year, they were my largest client. It wasn't just the fact that we shared some pipes, it was because we shared our lives together. And when we did that, we opened up about each other. The trust grew. And you have to have trust. People buy from people they trust. They don't, if you don't have that, it becomes a commodity. And even then, you go to a grocery store and you buy a certain brand because you trust that brand.
But is it possible to listen first to people you don't particularly like? Because you didn't like each other at first with this pipe smoking guy. Is it possible to listen to people? How do you do that? Because it's really easy to listen to people that you like, or it's a lot easier to listen to people you like. But if you don't like them, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because you don't actually want to be there at all.
Most people, and I'm going to say 95% of the people I've ever met in my life, if you take the time, and this is from all walks of life. I don't care if if it's someone, a CEO or someone who you just meet on the street. If you take the time to ask questions about themselves, and let them know that you care, I think that you can have that kind of a connection.
Yeah.
Now, it may not go anywhere from that point, but certainly if you make that effort and if you find it important enough you keep making that effort, I think you can have a relationship.
Is there any one thing that we should take away that's helped you to sort of tune into this idea that we ought to listen more?
I think the one thing that I go back to over and over again is I focus on how can I provide value for someone. That is my entire focus. If I'm having a conversation with you and I'm going to be, even in this conversation, how can I provide value to Ian? What can I do? If you focus on that, if that's what you care about, then you'll automatically, it'll just come to you. You'll know the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you can, you have to have some sort of, hello, how are you? Just to get to know someone. But after that point, you can, if you focus on how can I add value to this person's life, then everything else falls into place.
Yeah.
For me.
That's a really cool point. Mr. Bob Poole, thank you very much for joining me on Really Good Thinking, home of ideas that matter. This is Ian Aspin. Think better, feel better, take an aspirin. I'll catch you later.
Bye. Thank you.